have everybody here just screaming at me like, haha, TC, I told you so. He's not as bad as you think. Justin Fields is the man. He is the bomb. And while I think he did do fantastic in this past game, there is still a little bit to be desired. And on top of that, it's not just like Justin Fields emerged into a franchise quarterback within a week. So we're going to dive into a lot of the stuff that the Bears did right, not from Justin Fields' perspective, but offensively and defensively as well. So the first thing that I think the Bears did really good was scheming. Matt Eberflus went out there and didn't have just the first three possessions put down on paper. He had the full game. Exactly one of the criticisms that both me and Tyler Farngold, co-host here at the Winner Circle, if you're unaware, he's at work today at The Score. Shout out to you, buddy, if you're watching on YouTube. I really appreciate that at the Winner Circle STC by TMT. But Justin Fields has seemed to only get those first few drives set up for his success. He's got, specific throws he's supposed to make. And then after that, it kind of feels like the rest of the game has been ad-libbed. And in this contest, you didn't really see that. It didn't feel like every call was pre-scripted, but it did feel like there were a number of plays, even after halftime, that were designed to get Fields into a certain spot, to be throwing to a specific receiver, and just having that timing and everything. It didn't seem like he was just kind of put out there with like, okay, we're going to, just run tree formations or something like that. It seemed like there was an obvious goal to what they were doing. And on top of that, when you go into what they were calling those play call scheming, you see that there were a bunch of designed runs. There were a bunch of passes that got Justin Fields out of the pocket. And what does this mean? It means that the scheming upsized the good traits of the Bears offense, and it downplayed the weaknesses. So what do I mean by that? One of the biggest things I think every Bears fan, every NFL fan can agree about the Chicago Bears is the fact that they have absolutely no offensive line. Now, for some reason, the line works in terms of running the football, but the second you ask them to protect Justin Fields, they don't know how to do it. So in this contest, what did the Bears do? A bunch of quarterback designed runs, and they got Justin Fields out of the pocket on boots, play action, or just, naturally having him waltz out there to throw a pass. Because what did that do? It gave Justin Fields the space that he needed to have a few extra seconds to be able to withstand the pass rush of New England to find an open man. On top of that, as he's moving to either direction, like let's say he's moving to the right. If he's moving to the right, he's not throwing the ball to the center or left of center of the field. It's going to be a near impossible throw, despite the fact that he's got a great arm. He's just not going to be able to make that throw. So he's going to be throwing things to the right side of the field, which cuts down the amount of field that he needs to be seeing. So in simpler terms, I guess, his field of vision is basically able to see all of his receivers versus having to move his head to see each guy. Now, is he seeing everybody perfectly? No, but at least he has his peripheral vision to make out somewhat of an idea as to what the defense and his receivers are looking like at that moment. On top of that, if he's outside of the pocket, he's already got a bunch of space to be able to utilize his speed, which he did well. And that utilizing that speed gave him the confidence to be able to pass the ball, because now he's like, okay, nobody's open, I could run. If somebody's open, I could throw it. And if they drop it, it's on them. And what happened? The Chicago Bears didn't drop balls, which moved them in the right direction. They were picking up first downs. Justin Fields got his swag back, and it was just some great scheming overall. And like I said, offensively, great things that happened. Receivers were catching passes, not dropping, obviously needed first downs. Justin Fields getting back into that swag, working on his running ability, because, again, one of my biggest criticisms personally was the fact that Justin Fields had one specific move to get away from pass rushers. He would do this, half, doink spin to try to get away from defenders. And it's like, back in college, that might have worked against some slower, defensive tackles or something that may still work in the NFL. But these defensive ends, these linebackers, it's not going to work. And in this game, Justin Fields finally took my advice. Obviously he's listening to TC Talks, and he finally was like, you know what, instead of just trying to do this random spin on this defender, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to analyze his pattern of attack. How is he coming at me? I'm going to read that and I am going to adjust to it. I'm going to be able to in other ways besides just one move. And because he was reading the defenders and making his reactions based off of them instead of just a spin, it actually worked. Justin Fields was able to pick up a crucial first down on a 3rd and 14, 3rd and 15 later on in the game in the second half. And that's the kind of athleticism you need him to have if he's not going to be throwing for over 200 yards. And that's exactly what he gave you. So did he move in the right direction in this game? Absolutely. But is it okay? Am I at the point, and should Bear fans be at the point that they think Justin Fields is a great quarterback? Absolutely not. But I want to know your thoughts on our Instagram or on our YouTube. Now we have a community page, or if you're on live, you can just go ahead and type it into the chat. Do you think Justin Fields is a good quarterback? Has he finally made it? Or are you kind of like me where you're like, yes, he's got the baseline skills, but we haven't seen them all come together frequently enough to be able to say he's a good quarterback. He's not a bust, to be fair, but he is definitely not at that level that you could say, oh, yes, he is the starting quarterback for this franchise going forward. Then defensively, a bunch of young guys got going. Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, both with interceptions. That's exactly what you want to be seeing from this young talent. Now, I know Jaquan Brisker's interception was way more athletic than Kyler Gordon's, and Kyler Gordon really just running out of gas on that 43-yard return. Really kind of unfortunate. I don't know about you, but like 43 yards and just like getting gas. Today, since TC doesn't work out, doesn't seem like a possibility to even run 43 yards. But back in high school, TC could run 43 yards 10,000 times. TC used to run. But overall, great showing from those guys. Showing overall, those 2 touchdowns that they gave up, those were so bad, especially that first one. Like, he was so open, he fell to the ground and was able to do the worm into the end zone. That's how open the Bears left that guy earlier in the game. But honestly, besides that, there was less than 100 rushing yards in this game, which is great. You want to see that from the Chicago Bears defense, because honestly, it's been the Bears rushing defense that's really struggled. I know their pass defense isn't the best either, but still, when it comes to that passing attack, it's going to get worse against the Chicago Bears if they're not able to stop the run. In this contest, they shut down the run, and it forced them to pass, and it made Mac Jones actually get benched. And then Bailey Zappi, not looking too great, came out originally looking pretty good, but after the Bears settled down, just absolutely looked terrible. Honestly, it was a bad showing. But overall, the Bears did a pretty good job in this game. There are some needs for improvement. Like I was saying, that offensive line is pretty bad, is pretty lackluster. So I would like to see something fixed with that. 4 sacks at least, not acceptable. Justin Fields cannot be taking that many hits. They need to do something to correct that. He needs to be more comfortable in the pocket, needs to have that safety, that protection. I will say I did like the amount of extra protection they did have on certain plays. I saw tight ends being pulled in. I saw running backs chip blocking. That's exactly what you're hoping for, just that little extra second that Justin Fields is going to need to be able to complete some deeper passes. That's always nice. And then defensively, they need to be able to create some pressure. I know that's going to be hard to do now that Robert Quinn, probably the best pass rusher on the team, is now gone into the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's rather unfortunate. But defensively, they need to be able to find a way to get pressure on that quarterback, because Bailey Zappi is not going to be the quarterback you're going up against every week. And eventually those quarterbacks are going to be able to start to burn you, especially if you're leaving guys as open as the Bears did on New England's first touchdown. Unfortunate, but I think there is a lot of upside to this. And if you are wondering, why am I talking about YouTube so much? It is because our YouTube is kicking off the Winner Circle STC by TMT. Go check it out. But coming up find out my picks for the worst games of this week on the NFL for our new segment, Bottom Feeder Battle. Next. All right, what's going on YouTube? I'm probably not even going to keep this going the whole time when I'm on here, but might as well. We're here just chilling in Cedar Rapids. Mostly just we go live on the Winner Circle every Wednesday, 5 p.m., sportstownchicago.com. That's what all this fancy stuff is for. And it's pretty fun. You know, it's a good time. It's more fun when Tyler Farringold, the co-host, is here. Especially now that I know we can live stream with the desktop, because I didn't know that before, because TC, TC is about as smart as YouTube as about your mom is with her Gmail account. We'll put it that way. No offense, Mom. I know you're listening. But in either case, TC's just here rocking away. Doing a commercial break right now. That's why it's just me and you guys. Also, you guys finally get to see what my hair looks like without these earphones on there. So that's fun. But in either case, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. This is kind of what we do here. It's a little bit different, like I said, because it's just me this week. There's usually at least one other person. Recently, we've been having a guest on as well. So it's usually three of us rocking it out here. And honestly, feeling pretty lonely. So if you could show some support in the chat, that would be fantastic. Honestly, I'm a little heartbroken right now. So anything you do would be nice. All right. Got about 40 seconds till we're back live for the sports news. So I guess I might as well tell you what happened, maybe show you what happened. You could see I got bit by a dog. And it doesn't really look that bad because it's really not that bad. It more felt like I got punched. It's funny enough because it's a boxer that did that to me. But dude, it hurt. And not even from the bite. Like I was like, you know, I was almost too afraid to touch it because like there's a bunch of other dogs by me and I don't want to get that on my hands. But I was like, am I bleeding? My coworker's like, no, you're not. I check it and I'm like, okay, I'm obviously bleeding. Like, how did she not see that? But oh well. We're back, guys. Coming back in 20 seconds. Welcome back to the Winner Circle. Well, there is a reason why I am the co-host and Tyler Farringold is the main host, if you get what I mean. But thank you for joining us yet again for the Winner Circle. If you're just tuning in, we just finished talking about the Chicago Bears and their impressive win over the New England Patriots and how Justin Fields has seemed to evolve as a quarterback, and hopefully some of that continues. We talked about the scheming around him as well, playing to the offense's benefit. But now we're going to be transitioning to the rest of the NFL in a new segment that I like to call Bottom Feeder Battles. In this segment, we're going to be going over each week's worst games, probably by the worst teams with little that are probably going to have little to no scoring in them. And we're going to talk about why they should be the worst games. And then you are going to be able to pick the winner, or I guess maybe the loser. It's up to you if it's a winner or a loser, by going onto our YouTube, the Winner Circle STC by TMT. But this week, I'm not going to have you guys do that, obviously, since this is the first week we're doing this. And it kind of just came to me right before the show. But next week, we're going to be doing this. So if you want to be able to participate, I'm going to have the list of games out there, and then you are going to give us winner ahead of time. But for this week, I just asked some family members, some friends, coworkers, and of course, the Fantasy Bros as well. So we're going to dive into my picks for the bottom feeders, and then I'm going to tell you which one was the best, worst bottom feeder. I'm going to give you a bottom feeder that might be able to bounce back this week at the end. So let's go ahead and dive into that first contest. It's going to be the Broncos versus the Jags, and nothing beats waking up early to watch an NFL game with offenses that have gained as about much traction in the weeks leading up to this as my YouTube channel. And I don't mean that as a joke. I mean that as a sad fact of reality. In fact, I think my YouTube channel might have gotten more traction just because of the amount that the shorts give you. I mean, people mindlessly go through those. Not the same thing with the Broncos. They have no way to get any sort of offense. And the Jaguars, forget about offense. You have a quarterback that doesn't even know what he's doing half the time. I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence. I wanted to believe in you, especially when he started going off during week 3 or 4, I believe it was. And then all of a sudden, he's back off the face of the earth. And it's just rather unfortunate. But honestly, these teams are a little bit of a letdown. And sure, Russell Wilson is going to be back for the Broncos, but are you really trying to tell me that is a positive? That's like Matty Ice being ready to go for the Colts. He might be there. It's not necessarily a benefit. I mean, sure, it's an extra hand on deck for injury, but that's about it. And then again, Trevor Lawrence, like I said, he had a flash of a pan greatness, but he just hasn't been able to live up to that potential. And we're already going back to those conversations about how much potential he has. So it's rather just unfortunate for him. Then we have the Panthers versus the Falcons. And while the Falcons have put up some decent games this year, I think that there's just a lot to be desired from this team, especially when you look at their defense. They basically have nothing in terms of cornerbacks and secondary. It's rather unfortunate. Pass rush is very limited as well. And then offensively, they're relying on Marcus Mariota to be able to get the job done. That's not a slice of cake I'm willing to eat. I would rather, have a salad just because then I could say I was healthier. But in either case, for this game, the Panthers, they dealt all of their weapons, somehow won last week against a good Bucs. Well, I shouldn't say good Bucs team, but what everybody thought was a good Bucs team. And out of nowhere, they were able to score 3 touchdowns, matching their season total in the game, which is just ridiculous. And they did that all without their starting quarterback, or should I say their star quarterback, Baker. So how they did all this has been ridiculous. But the biggest issue with this game is the fact that Carolina's offense doesn't like to score, but Carolina's defense is also a powerhouse, which means Atlanta might not be able to put up any points to make this game interesting, which is rather unfortunate because the modern NFL fan is accustomed to points. Okay, if there are no points, it's a boring game for the NFL fans. Doesn't matter how great the defense is. Doesn't matter how spectacular the tackles are, the interceptions can be, anything like that. That's not what's important. The only thing that's important is how many numbers go in that box down at the bottom of the screen, because that gets people going, apparently. That's what's exciting. But in either case, I think this game does have the potential to be interesting in some ways because the Panthers offense is able to go off for 3 touchdowns. And, for some godforsaken reason, the Falcons offense is able to get going as well. And they're able to start mounting a comeback or be competitive in this game as well. It could be a nail biter, but the chances of that one are slim to none, in my opinion. Then the 49ers versus the Rams, and it is a similar situation. Both teams have a spectacular defense, and the unfortunate reality is both teams' offenses are just stacked with offensive talent. There is just so much talent on both sides of the ball on both teams in terms of offense, but neither team's offense looks good, and that mostly has to do with the quarterback play. Matthew Stafford went from being a Pat Statter to a Super Bowl winner to I don't know who even is this guy. He's not Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford would be at least padding his stats right now. So we're all very confused. And I have to just say, Jimmy Garoppolo, I thought he was going to come back into the game or back into the team and just be what the team needed, because it seemed like he was doing a pretty good job in the first few weeks. But then he's like, you know what? I'm already back. Trey Lance is done for the season. What do I have to prove. People already know they can get to the NFC Championship with me. That's all I need, and that's what I'm going to be waiting for this next offseason, which is rather unfortunate because I really thought Jimmy G was going to be able to make it over the hump in this one because the Bills and Chiefs would literally tear each other apart in the AFC title game. And then that means the 49ers, who literally need Jimmy G to look pretty while he throws a touchdown or two, they would be sitting pretty comfy waiting for them for the Super Bowl. And I think that's just an easy path for success. But in either case, that's not going to be the reality this year, unfortunately. And both these are just too elite for these sub-tier offenses. It's going to make them look worse. Then the Colts versus the Commanders. And this, honestly, this is a painful game to even contemplate. If you really want to start to contemplate, let's go ahead and do it. I want you to imagine a Colts offense that goes from Matty Ice, who had at least success moving the ball, both for his team and the other team, to a backup quarterback who has never started in the league. And they're going to be doing that with Jonathan Taylor, who, unlike the first few weeks in the NFL, has been absolutely terrible this season over the past few weeks. I don't know what happened, but they were like, TC has him for fantasy, so I guess not. When you just not give it to him, just don't worry about it. Because Jonathan Taylor hasn't been doing too good either. But you're really telling me that they're going to move the ball better than they have in the weeks previous? I don't think so. It could mean that I get a bunch of points in fantasy because they try to get Jonathan Taylor to move the ball, and I think he'll be able to do it for a quarter or two. But overall, I think what it really comes down to is the fact that Taylor Heinicke is going to be the backup for the Commanders. Because honestly, Carson Wentz, I feel like if he was there for the revenge game, it would be decided. Be 100% Washington Commanders victory, especially coming off back-to-back wins against the Bears and the Packers. But unfortunately for the Commanders, he's not going to be there, and it's going to be Taylor Heinicke. And Taylor Heinicke just really isn't the answer for the Commanders. I know he got the job done against the Packers, but really Taylor Heinicke versus Sam Ehlinger is going to be probably one of the most boring moments in television history. The Colts D is just too good. Jonathan Taylor might be able to do something, and that's going to be the biggest part of the game. Those are the only two things that are going to go well. So who is the biggest bottom feeder? Now, I know I talked pretty badly about the way the Colts Commanders game is going to go, but what's really bad is the Broncos versus Jags game, because everyone's talking about Wilson's comeback. It's not a comeback. It is literally just, it's going to be pain and misery if he's back on the field, both for fans, for him, and his team. I mean, he's already making his teammates go crazy on the field at the end of games. Does it really need to get any worse? These anemic offenses are so boring. Nobody's going to want to watch it. It is just painful television every single time. But who is our bottom feeder to bounce back? That is the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders are 2-5, but they've been moving in the right direction slowly. The Raiders' losses this season have all been decided by a possession, including the heartbreaking 30-29 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. But both Vegas's wins are by at least 2 possessions. So I think they have the possibility to come back to this week against the Saints. Then they have a great schedule ahead of them, because after the Saints, they play the Jags, the Colts, and then the Broncos over their next 3 games. Those are easy games to be able to get above 500 and be back in the playoff picture for the Raiders. But I want to know your thoughts on this. Do you agree with me that the Broncos versus Jags is going to be the worst game in the NFL this week? You could let me know on our YouTube at The Winner Circle STC, and just go to our community page and give me your thoughts there. Coming up, we're going to be talking all about the Bulls and the Chicago curse. Is it lifted at the United Center? I have the answer next. I'm TC with your Sportstown Chicago update. Bears trade veteran pass rusher Robert Quinn to the Eagles. The three-time Pro Bowler was sent to Philadelphia in exchange for a fourth-round draft pick. Quinn set the Bears' all-time single-season record last year with 18 and a half sacks a season ago, but in just 7 games this season has recorded just 1 sack. Bears linebacker Roquan Smith became emotional during this week's news conference when asked about the trade, saying, "I have a lot of respect for that guy. Crazy," after wiping back tears. Ezekiel Elliott looks to start against the Bears. The Pro Bowl running back did not practice Wednesday after he hyperextended his knee during the second quarter of last week's win over the Detroit Lions, but he would later return to cap off the game with 57 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. When asked how his leg felt, Elliott replied, "All right, a little stiff," but also noted, "We've still got a lot of time before Sunday. Right now, I'm focused on getting this knee as healthy as I can." This 7-year veteran has only missed 1 game due to injury in his career. The Cowboys host the Bears at 12 on Fox this Sunday. Andy Dalton has won quarterback 1. The Saints announced Andy Dalton will be the starter moving forward, despite Jameson Winston's returning from injury. Head coach Dennis Allen told reporters he thinks Dalton has played well and the offense has done well. The team is in a bit of a rhythm, moving the ball effectively and scoring points, saying the team will run with Dalton under center as long as he gets results. The Bulls host the Pacers at the United Center. Chicago is coming off a thrilling win against Eastern Conference rival Boston Celtics, where the Bulls were able to recover from a 19-point deficit. Meanwhile, the Pacers made without center Miles Turner. Turner is yet to play after injuring his ankle earlier in the season. This has been your Sportstown Chicago update. I'm TC. All right, guys, let's go. Welcome back to the Winner's Circle. We're now in the second half of our show. If you're just joining us, it is Happy Hump Day to all of us. And Tyler Farringold, unfortunately for him, is celebrating this hump day at work, but I'm sure he's enjoying it regardless because he's absolutely killing it up there at the Score. So I hope he's enjoying that. But if you're just joining us, we have been talking all about the NFL. First, we started with those Chicago Bears and how they absolutely decimated the New England Patriots, the scheming that went around that offense to be able to produce 33 points in that contest, as well as the bottom feeders around the NFL in our second segment called Bottom Feeders Battles. So if you're looking into that, make sure you stay tuned for next week so you can be a part of that. But for this segment, we're going to be talking all about the Chicago Bulls and their game against the Pacers. Now, the Bulls, they are in luck. They are coming off a tremendous win against the Boston Celtics, a game in which they were down by 19 points at some point, and they were able to come all the way to a 23-point advantage at some point in the game as well. So it was a tremendously fought game, and that is where the notion of breaking the quote-unquote Chicago curse, the curse that I say exists in Chicago, because it seems like most Chicago teams, when they're faced with a hint of adversity, it seems like it completely decimates the whole team. If you're talking about a game, a season, whatever the situation may be, a little bit goes wrong and it is a slippery slope to something worse for a Chicago team. But the Bulls, showing that it may be broken there at the United Center, willing to show it off yet again against the Pacers tonight. The Pacers, of course, without star center Miles Turner, perhaps. He is going to be a game time decision just due to the fact that they want to bring him back when he's actually ready. He is by far the best player on that Pacers team. They're not really a good team, and wanting to build around a great center like Miles Turner is never a bad idea. That's a good way to start, especially if you're looking at a team like the Chicago Bulls, who, we were all saying needed a center, a true center, and here comes Vucevic on his birthday, getting 24 rebounds, completely outscoring anybody in terms of rebounds, and just being a force all night long. He did a tremendous job, and that's exactly what the Bulls are hoping he's going to do tonight against the Pacers. What did they do right to go against the Celtics that I want them to replicate tonight? Well, the biggest thing is they didn't get down on themselves. Like I said, they broke the Chicago curse. They were able to recover from a deficit and come up on top. The next thing they need to be able to do is keep up that good ball movement. In that game, they were moving the ball so smooth. That's due to Dragic, and it's due to Vucevic, actually, who was having some good passes from down by the rim, but also Zach LaVine as well. They were just moving the ball really nicely. Vucevic, especially down at the center of the rim. I don't know if you guys paid a lot of attention to that, but he was just able to find guys that were open when the defense started crashing. I remember one play, he had like 3 guys on him, was able to get it out, no problem, to the open guy at the three-point line, and it was a perfect 3. That's exactly what you're hoping for from the Chicago Bulls, because they are really good at shooting threes percentage-wise. Same thing as last year. They were a high shooting percentage team, and it's the same thing that's happening right now. They shot 48%, just about, as 47.6, I believe, is the exact statistic they posted. But in either case, just a tremendous amount of accuracy from the Bulls in terms of those three-point shootings, and that's because of the fact that they're able to get those clean looks due to that spacing, due to that ball movement. So hopefully they're able to continue that again, and they completely out-rebounded the had to do with Vucevic finally showing up, finally having that big body presence to be able to at least go get rebounds. Didn't look too bad on defense as well, if we're going to keep talking about Vucevic, because let's be honest, that was Vucevic's show that night. I know DeMar DeRozan led the way with scoring for the Bulls, and there's a bunch of other stars on the Bulls as well, but Vucevic really was the crux of that offense. He was doing great on defense too. I believe he had 12 defensive rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds, or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. Unfortunately, TC's memory is not that sharp. But I'll tell you what was sharp, the amount that the Bulls were able to score in the paint. I say consistently, a team that is able to win it in the paint is going to be able to win it at the end of the game. And that's exactly what the Bulls did, especially when you pair that with fast break points. Now, unfortunately, the Celtics got more points over turnovers because the Bulls committed a few more turnovers than the Celtics. But other than that, the Bulls were able to win in fast break points, not by much, but it is that difference that you're able to make, just being able to slam down your opponent's throat like that. That just shows off both your skill and your raw potential as well. So it's really a good performance for them in that regard. But there are some things that they needed to get under control. Like I said, 14 turnovers last night is not good. They need to be able to keep control over that ball if they want to be able to stay competitive, because it may not be as big of an issue against a bad team like the Pacers, and they might be able to get away with it in games where they're shooting 48% from the three-point line. But overall, when they start to get back into these higher quality games, it's going to be hard for the Bulls to be able to come back if they're turning the ball over too much. That's something that they need to be able to work on, and it's just unfortunate that they're getting outplayed like that. And again, the second thing that they need to do is they need to get going early. 3 out of the 4 games they've played so far this season, they have been down after the first period. And honestly, I know they've been able to rebound a little bit, but in some situations, that's just a little too much to overcome. And honestly, the Bulls, they can't just be comeback artists. It's a good tool to have. It's a good thing to keep in the back of your pocket, but it's not a good way to go about being as a team. It shouldn't be your defining characteristic, because unfortunately, there's sometimes the Cinderella stories run out. Sometimes, when it's David and Goliath, Goliath wins in some circumstances when, they're different circumstances. But in any case, the Bulls, I have complete faith in them to win tonight, especially if Miles Turner doesn't play. I will say, if Miles Turner does play, I think it will be limited, but I do think it would also help Bulls fans and the Chicago Bulls themselves get a better read on how Vucevic is going to be in terms of defensively with a bigger guy who's kind of a little bit more competitive, because Vooch is a good scorer, but he's always kind of struggled with defense. He's kind of always been, I don't want to say wimpy, but something along those lines in terms of rebounding. He's always been kind of loose with it, so to speak. So I would like to see him kind of correct that a little bit as well. And honestly, for the Bulls in general, I would like to see them, focus a little bit less on perimeter shooting. I feel like they settled a few times on 3-point attempts where they had a clean look. I'm not saying that it was a bad shot. I'm just saying in general, I personally don't like the 3-point shot. I know these guys can make it 9 out of 10 times most of the time from in practice, but I would like to see them, really just work a team down, and it really, especially in the beginning of a game, I would really like to see them really just start to shove the ball down the other team's throat, because really the Bulls don't have the same firepower as other teams with the 3-point ball, because sure, the Bulls can make open threes. They can make contested threes too. I'm not saying they can't, but what I'm getting at more is the fact that the Bulls, they don't have a Steph Curry-like guy that can just pull up and shoot wherever he's at. Contested, non-contested, behind the back from half court. It just doesn't exist for the Chicago Bulls. So they need to be able to utilize their strengths, and I think they need to focus on that, especially early on in the game. But I want to know your thoughts. Do you think the Bulls are going to be a good team this year? They're 2-2 right now, but with so much competition now in the East, a lot of teams that were below the Bulls last year are burning up. Do you think the Bulls are going to be able to keep pace, or do you think they're going to fall this year? I want to know at our YouTube, the Winner Circle STC by TMT. Coming up, the World Series starts Friday. Who has the advantage going into Game 1? Find out next. I'm sorry, that hit to the face is really starting to weigh on me. Like, my mouth hurts a lot. Yeah, well, my mouth hurts really bad, guys. That's why I'm not talking right now. Trying to finish off the show, but my jaw really just like I don't even want to do this. That's how bad it is. But we got like 5 minutes left. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to cut this short just because it's really starting to hurt. But we'll see. Welcome back to the Winner Circle. I'm your host, TC here, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. My mouth is really starting to hurt actually from that dog bite, so I might take off a little bit early here because of that. But I will try to go through it for you guys here because we are just about done. We are on the final segment here at the Winner Circle, so we'll try to keep this rolling for the next 13 minutes. But if you're just joining us, Tyler Farrell back at work, holding down the fort here is TC with the Winner Circle. And we want to thank you for joining us. We talked about the Bears. We talked about the NFL. We just talked all about the Bulls and the keys to success in tonight's matchup against the Pacers. And now we're going to be switching over to the baseball diamond for the World Series. The World Series, one of the best. You know what? It is the best. Not one of the best. It is the best championship game, series, title, whatever you want to call it out there. The World Series is just too beautiful because it's not like you have a one-off event that could just have been, the better team had a bad day. No, you need to go out there. You need to win a best of 7 series to be able to be named the best team in baseball worldwide. That's exactly the kind of level of stage that I love to see, and it's exactly why the World Series is better than anything else. Hey, I love the Super Bowl. I think the NBA Finals is great, but the World Series is where it's at. Next, so the Houston Astros squaring off against the Philadelphia Phillies, two very different teams, recently at least in terms of success, because the Phillies kind of more fell into success, I would like to say, versus the Astros. I think they've been to 6 AL title games over the past 7 or 8 years or something like that. So a lot of success for Houston. Philadelphia just spawned out of nowhere pretty much, coming out of the wet works out there to be able to be in this World Series. So what I want to answer today, what I want to dive into is who has the advantage in this World Series? Is it the Houston Astros, the team with all the success in recent memory, one of the best franchises over the past 5-10 years, or the Philadelphia Phillies, the underdogs from underdog from underdog? I mean, the Phillies are the biggest underdog I think I've ever seen. And honestly, the way they got to the World Series is ridiculous. But we'll dive into all that. We'll dive into who has the true advantage right now. So during the regular season, the Astros and Phillies played each other three times. And honestly, the first two contests were way more interesting than the last one, because in the first contest, the Phillies won 3-0. But then the Houston Astros were like, you know what? We took that personally, and what we're going to do now is we're going to win 10-0. Okay, how does that sound? We'll take your investment. We'll more than triple it. All right, how does that sound for you? So the Astros win that one 10-0, and then they win the next one 3-0. So not 3-2. So not too exciting in that last game. A little bit more thrilling, I guess you could say. But I think the 10-run game was the apex of that contest. So that means the Astros won 2 out of 3 contests by a margin of 13-5. So honestly, you would think just on the surface, Astros all the way then. Well, as I said in the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, was it just a one-off thing? Was it just a bad night for the Phillies? We shall see in this series. Then I wanted to kind of just look at their postseason success. How is it that these two teams got to where they're at? Sure, the regular season matters a little bit. The Phillies had to scratch their way into the playoffs through the wild card, and the Astros just remained dominant the whole season. So what exactly happened? So I went back and I looked at the numbers, and it's, let me just check the math really quick. Yeah, the Astros won every single game en route to the World Series, so they had a clean sweep all the way through. Meanwhile, the Phillies, they won 2 games in the wild card, and that was the only thing they would sweep. They would win the divisional round in 4 games. Then they would win the last series, the NLCS, in 5 against the Padres, who, funnily enough, are the other wild card team. So pretty interesting that they both played each other for the title or the conference series. But honestly, there only could be one, like in Highlander, and it was the Phillies. So now they're both here. Who has the advantage given these circumstances? When you look at these two teams, the Astros, coated in success from past history or recent history to the regular season to the past games against the Philadelphia Phillies to the postseason success, it really does shout that the Houston Astros should obviously be your favorites to win. But let me tell you why that is 100% wrong. A team that never faces adversity, a team that has it almost too easy getting to the championship game, more often than not ends up falling short in that contest. So it's for that reason that I think that the Philadelphia Phillies, that had to scratch their way into the playoffs, that had to finish in the wild card round, that had to go through the divisional round, that had to go through the NLCS facing another wild card team looking to have the exact same mojo as them, and they said no to be in the position they're at, to be going up against the team that they're going up against. The tale of two cities, almost literally in this situation, is just too high. And if you are rolling with any other team than the Philadelphia Phillies, let me tell you, you're wrong. I don't care that Justin Verlander is 900 years old and is still throwing better than any other human on the planet with a sub-2 ERA during the regular season. He has an astronomical 6.0 ERA in the postseason. So why don't you take that to the bank. But I want to know your thoughts down below or on our YouTube. What do you think is going to happen in this World Series? Do you agree with TC that it is much more about the swagger, the character of a team, or do you think that the greater focus needs to be on the recent success of the team like the Astros have? I want to know your thoughts on our YouTube at The Winner Circle STC by TMT. And I am unfortunately going to take off a little bit early, guys. This has just been absolutely killing me. I do apologize. I thank you for tuning in yet again to another episode of The Winner Circle. Hopefully, and I'm pretty sure it is going to be the case, Tyler Farringall is going to be back here next week. So we'll have a little bit more fun, hopefully, with him back in the fold. Hopefully, Clint, our guest, as you guys are privy to, is back as well. And we can have some great conversations, especially given all these weird upsets in the NFL, all these trades that are going to be happening before the deadline. And we'll dive into all that. But thank you for tuning in yet again. I am going to go ice my face. Until next time, this has been TC with The Winner Circle. Peace. Oh, well, thank you guys for listening. My face really does hurt. I think I'm just going to stop talking, and we're just going to leave it at that. Good. Thank you for tuning in. TC Talks. We try to do that as often as we can, and if you're not able to make it there for that, then it's a good thing it's on YouTube. So I don't know what the heck that was. But in either case, thank you guys yet again. And I didn't really like being both on the phone or on the studio and on YouTube, because I'm in a Leslie Knope situation where I'm half-assing two things, and I need to just be full-assing one. And I am the only reason why I am going to use language like that, ladies and gentlemen, is because YouTube forced me to make this as a content because it was live. So yeah, or I don't know, maybe I just accidentally clicked that, but this is for adults only. So I am going to say that, but my mouth is done. Goodbye.